President Joe Biden has just announced that he is dropping out of the 2024 presidential race. In a stunning letter that was just released moments ago by his campaign on X, formerly known as Twitter, Biden wrote, quote, that it has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And finally, it happened. Joe Biden bowing to the inevitable and quitting the race for the White House. But surprising his aides and wrong-footing the media by announcing the decision on X as Americans sat down to their Sunday lunch. And doing so only 24 hours after Joe's campaign manager had insisted forcefully and repeatedly that he was in to win.
Look, absolutely the president's in this race. You've heard him say that time and time again. Joe Biden is more committed than ever to beat Donald Trump.
So now the question is, who will replace him? With Joe endorsing his VP, Kamala Harris, and the Clintons also pledging their support. But Barack Obama failing to do so and predicting an outstanding nominee would emerge. Meanwhile, the media were lining up the runners and making their pick.
All eyes now turning to Vice President Kamala Harris, who has made history over and over again throughout her life.
And the Trump campaign was rolling out the Kamala attack ads.
Kamala was in on it. She covered up Joe's obvious mental decline.
Our president is in good shape, in good health, tireless, vibrant, and I have no doubt about the strength of the work that we have done.
While her followers were returning the favour with this 2019 ad going viral.
He's a world leader in temper tantrums. She never loses her cool.
Days earlier, in Milwaukee, Donald Trump had been behaving like the race was already over. Standing on stage, his name in lights, soaking up the adulation of the crowd and telling the faithful that his brush with death had told him God had chosen him to lead.
There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that.
Trump's rewritten speech opened with a message of unity.
I am running to be president for all of America, not half of America, because there is no victory in winning for half of America.
But his call for peace, love and togetherness, which very soon veered right off track, did not include one group attending his coronation. And several MAGA diehards had already made that clear.
You guys up there in the fake news have worn out your welcome, right? You've worn it out, guys. You have spent the last 8 years lying about President Donald Trump and his amazing patriotic supporters.
And former TV host Carrie Lake was not the only one to go on the attack, with Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene also firing on the enemy.
Shame on you. Shame on you.
But
because
no.
You're the problem. And where's this woman from?
The Times.
You're
London.
from the Times? Okay, you're ridiculous. And you're the problem in our country.
But one media mogul was a little more welcome, even if his power is clearly on the wane.
Rupert Murdoch shows up at Republican convention.
The 93-year-old founder of Fox News and News Corp was not welcome to the stage, did not sit next to Trump, and was not posing for photos. But the fact that he turned up for the show spoke volumes. Because in the past, Murdoch has called Trump a danger, increasingly mad, and even irrelevant. And in late 2022, his New York Post went all in for Trump's Republican rival in the race, Ron DeSantis, calling him the future on the front page one day, then mocking Trump on the cover the next.
Trumpty Dumpty!
But 14 months later, as DeSantis' challenge for the Republican nomination fizzled out, the Murdochs got back on the Trump train, with the Post declaring,
"Done it again,"
as Trump won in New Hampshire, and following up with, "It's a done deal." And Fox News also welcomed Trump back, repairing the rift by giving him a town hall special in Iowa to spread his message.
I'm going to be a dictator for one day. We're going to do two things. The border, we're going to make it so tight you can't get in unless you come in legally. And the other is energy. We're going to drill, baby, drill.
After that, Trump was soon back on air for chummy chats with his biggest fans at Fox, like Maria Bartiromo and Sean Hannity. And in recent weeks, the New York Post has boosted Trump and hammered Biden relentlessly, with a series of hard-hitting front-page headlines, including "Doesn't have a Clooney" and "Time to go, Joe." So it was no great surprise after Trump's near-death experience that the Don invited a New York Post reporter onto his private jet for what the paper called a world-exclusive first interview, with the bandage victim basking in that history-making image.
A lot of people say it's the most iconic photo they've ever seen. They're right. And I didn't die. Usually you have to die to have an iconic picture.
Meanwhile, Miranda Devine, the Post's star Australian columnist, who tweeted that God had saved Donald for a reason, gushed.
The world saw the true character of Donald Trump on that bloodied stage on Saturday. He is the rare warrior leader in history who provides the peace through strength.
But while the Murdoch media is now firmly behind Trump again, it's the would-be 47th President of the United States who holds most of the power. And that message was clear as Rupert watched Trump's vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, address the faithful on Thursday. Because Murdoch had reportedly lobbied for someone else, only for Tucker Carlson, whom Murdoch famously fired from Fox, to override him.
When your enemies are pushing a running mate on you, Mr. Carlson told Mr. Trump, referring to the Murdoch empire, it's a pretty good sign you should ignore them.
Or as Trump's son Donald Jr. told Axios last week, when asked about Murdoch's influence.
Right, there was a time where if you wanted to survive in the Republican Party, you had to bend the knee to him or to others. I don't think that's the case anymore.
Now it's Murdoch bending his knee, knowing the financial future of his enterprise is inextricably linked to a man he loathes because Fox viewers love him. With ratings at Fox riding high again, now that the network is back on track and pro-Trump viewers are getting what they want. But now, let's come back home to EV bashing in the Australian media and this 7 News promo from last month.
Tesla, trouble. 6,000 cars lined up and sitting idle.
They've just stopped moving.
And that special report soon saw Bethan Yeoman out at the docks telling us that those 6,000 fancy EVs were
all dressed up and nowhere to go. 2,000 Teslas arrive here at Port Melbourne every month, but there's no buyers to take them home.
Tesla is far and away the biggest seller in the EV market, and Australian sales have been faltering as the market cools and cheaper Chinese EVs flood in. But in ripping off the Tesla graveyard story almost word for word, news.com.au translated that message into something quite different.
Picture proves EV market is in trouble.
With the news site also running a comment piece from Sky News host Caleb Bond, which claimed that the EV bubble had burst and the arse had fallen out of the EV market. And as Bond explained to his small band of viewers on Sky's Late Debate, it was clear to him why no one was buying them.
They've worked out that it's all a bit of a sham, and one of the great shams of it all now is that there's no resale value.
And Bond wasn't the only Sky News host high-fiving his colleagues over all this supposed doom and gloom. 2 weeks earlier, the BBC had asked if the move to electric vehicles was running out of power, noting correctly that after years of soaring sales, growth appears to be stalling. But on Sky's Outsiders, this was soon being revved up into a much more exciting story.
The BBC in Britain are now saying, whoops, it looks like the EV market is collapsing. The docks of Europe are loaded with these cheap Chinese EVs that nobody wants.
But this is a really interesting thing.
And in revealing why he was so thrilled by the setback, Dean explained.
The damage that Chris Bowen and this insane climate ideology is doing to this country and will do for decades, or certainly for years to come unless we change the government, is just unbelievable. But blame it on climate change, Rita.
And 2 days after that, his co-host Rita Panahi invited on Professor Ian Plimer, who claims humans are not to blame for global warming, to continue the EV attack and tell her about his recent drive to far west New South Wales.
I did that 600 kilometres from Adelaide to Broken Hill non-stop. It would have taken me nearly 3 days to do in an EV. Oh. And it might have caught a light. If I'd hit a kangaroo, God knows what would have happened.
So why would an EV take 3 days to do that trip? Well, it wouldn't, and the claim is nonsense. It's actually 516 kilometres from Adelaide to Broken Hill, and plenty of EVs can travel 600 k's or more without charge if needed. And, as you can see from this PlugShare map, there are plenty of chargers en route, with one at Burra, where the professor could have recharged the battery had a coffee and been back on the road in as little as 30 minutes. And as for fears about his EV catching fire, a study by Swinburne University would have revealed that
electric vehicle fires are very rare. The risk for petrol and diesel vehicles is at least 20 times higher.
And if, as a respected scientist, he felt the need for more detail, he could have discovered that between 2010 and 2023, Australia recorded only 4 electric vehicle battery fires, none of which appear to have been caused by the batteries. But that wasn't the famous climate skeptic's only false and fantastic claim.
Well, Mercedes-Benz has said, no, we're giving up on EVs. They're just not economically viable. They can't last the distance. They don't have the resale value, and we're giving it away absolutely and totally.
That, again, is absolutely not true. Mercedes is not giving up on EVs, although it has pushed back its targets by 5 years. But it's not just the climate skeptics at Sky who are down on EVs. News.com.au has published 39 negative stories about them this year, with headlines like this.
What terrifies Aussies about the idea of buying an electric vehicle?
Electric vehicles worse for environment than petrol cars.
Canberra families, Chinese EV nightmare.
And leading the charge has been Frank Chung, who has written around 15 negative stories since February. We asked him why all the bad news, and if anyone was feeding him these stories, but he did not respond. Meanwhile, the Daily Mail also has it in for EVs, publishing more than 20 negative stories on them since the start of June, with similar alarmist headlines. But EV bashing is an international media sport. This Polish YouTube channel Chase Car is one of countless sites that attacks EVs, with 36 videos in the past month alone, all of which are negative. And the UK media is also beset by EV bashers, with EV advocate and one-time Top Gear host Quentin Wilson telling the House of Commons in May,
as a campaign group, we counted one tabloid newspaper that had 160 continuous anti-EV stories without a break. And we see this also in the broadsheets.
And Wilson claimed that EV buyers were being successfully put off.
Because they read this torrent of stuff from right-wing and vested interests.
So, are these constant anti-EV stories politically motivated, or do they just drive clicks to media sites? It's hard to be sure, but this famous climate skeptic blog, What's Up With That, also pushes anti-EV stories. And as a New York Times investigation reported in March,
Republican polling has found attacking electric vehicle mandates to be an amazing issue for the party.
So, it's clearly an issue that's surging worldwide. We asked Giles Parkinson, former business editor of the Fin Review and founder of Renew Economy, what he thinks is behind the apparent media campaigns, and he told us,
it's just extraordinary, but it's widespread against anything new. All we know is that the level of stuff and pushback against us on social media and elsewhere is at an all-time high.
And finally tonight, to some great news. It's July sales time, and the commercial TV bulletins have been urging us to get spending.
Savvy shoppers can get their hands on bargain buys during this year's Amazon Prime Day.
And Peter Mitchell in Melbourne was not the only one at 7 who got the email.
Savvy shoppers can get their hands on bargain buys during this year's Amazon Prime Day.
Terrific. And that Savvy shoppers line, broadcast around the country, was ripped straight from the Amazon press release. But given that 7 now has satire and horoscopes in its evening bulletins, why not let advertisers write its stories? And of course, 7 wasn't the only network blowing the trumpet for Amazon's annual money grab. 10 was also sounding the call.
For those yet to even consider Christmas, there's still time for savvy shopping.
And so was 9, with finance editor Chris Kohler touring Amazon's Melbourne warehouse, complete with branded high-vis. And all the commercial networks were mining the media kit to deliver important Amazon research.
Amazon research shows
figures provided by Amazon showing
data revealing 3 in 4 Aussies are shopping online to save money.
Amazing, with 10 and 7 interviewing the same Amazon seller, again plucked straight out of the press release. Easy, eh? But this media blitz for Amazon isn't just an Aussie phenomenon, because news outlets around the world were lining up to sell their wares. In the UK, in Canada, and just about every market imaginable. Including the US, of course, where Good Morning America was giving viewers a live shot inside the Amazon Fulfillment Center in New York. And was there anything missing in all this glowing Amazon puff? Well, if you turned into the local news in Kansas, you got another story.
Well, Amazon's annual Prime Day is still going, and now a new report is linking the online shopping event to higher workplace injuries.
Well, a report released from the Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor and Pensions shows that Amazon warehouse workers are more than twice as likely to be injured while working the two-day event.
Now that is news, whereas the rest is just shameless PR, which the media nowadays all over the world are only too happy to provide. That's all from us for tonight. Don't forget Media Bites on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. But for now, till next week, goodbye.